The success piece for us is we now have a student, multiple students, so we have several students that have taken that path. They're now advocates for the program. So any opportunity that we can get for them to come back, speak to our students, and advocate for CTAE and the well-being of the students, we take advantage of those type of situations.
Welcome to the Southside Show, your local news and information source for Atlanta's South Side.
Welcome to the Southside Show. I'm your host, Artie Jones III. The Southside Show will introduce you to the talented individuals, visionary leaders, innovative entrepreneurs, and game changers that make us Southside strong. Today's guest is Mary Shepard, Director of the Career, Technical, and Agricultural Education, or CTAE program. Welcome. How are you doing?
Good, and yourself?
Great, great. Well, Mary, first, please tell me a little bit about your background. Are you from the Atlanta metro area?
I am. I'm a native Atlantan.
Okay.
Product of Atlanta Public Schools, matriculated at the University of Georgia, where I received my business ed degree. I wanted to give back to a district that once served me, so I went back to Atlanta after graduating, and I worked for 10 years in the classroom as a business ed teacher in Atlanta Public Schools. I wanted to learn and embrace leadership, so I had an opportunity to transition for 4 years to Clayton County Public Schools as a school improvement specialist for CTAE. After working in that capacity for 4 years, I transitioned back to Atlanta Public Schools, where I embraced Title I and federal programs. I worked there for 1.5 years. Then I transitioned to a non-traditional setting. I worked for the Department of Juvenile Justice for 4 years. Serving those students from a CTAE lens. I worked with them as it relates to trying to get them certifications. So we partnered with Atlanta Tech, and we provided opportunities for the students in long-term and short-term facilities to get forklift and welding certificates.
Okay.
Wanted to go back to a traditional setting, so 2 years ago, 2.5 years now, I transitioned back to Clayton County as the CTAE director.
Wow.
So I have 28 years in the profession.
Wow, you must have started when you were about 35. I mean, when you were about 5 years
I wish.
old, maybe.
I just look good.
Oh, okay. Well, it just seems like education is in your blood. Have you always known that you wanted to be in education?
Absolutely not. So when I started at the University of Georgia, I was a little confused. I didn't realize, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. My sister, she went to Clark Atlanta, and she was in business, so I felt like I wanted to do something in business. I started, couldn't figure it out. I think it was up until my sophomore year, I was still struggling. I had an opportunity to work at College of Career Planning. Placement, it was an internship that I worked on campus. And during that time, I would often share my struggles with trying to determine, even to narrow my focus as it related to business. And I shared with one of the counselors, the career counselors, and he stated, you know, you don't necessarily have to go through the business school. Have you ever thought about business education? And I think at the time they were looking for students to, you know, push into the school of education and in that specific area. And I embraced it. And I thought I did not have to student teach.
Okay.
So when I started, I was told, you know, you can go 2 routes. You can go into the business sector or you can go into the classroom. So embracing it, I decided, no, I don't want to teach. So I'll go into the business sector. Still trying to figure that piece out. As we approached, I think, our senior year, we had to do student teaching. And I fought it. And I said, I can't do it. And my dean was like, in order to graduate, you have to go through the student teaching process. They allowed me to come back home. I'm a product of Atlanta Public Schools, but I graduated from Turner High School, which is no longer a high school.
Okay.
At the time, it was not a high school. So the closest school to me, within a 60-mile radius of University of Georgia, was Douglas High School. I did my student teaching there, and I embraced education. I loved it.
Wow.
When I went back to share with the cohort of students, you had students that knew that they wanted to go into education. Their minds had changed from their experience, and mine had changed in a positive way. So that's how I embraced it.
Wow, man. Well, that's excellent. It's amazing how sometimes you dislike things that you really haven't experienced, and when you finally open that door, you know, it just kind of engulfs you.
Right.
I can tell that you're very impassioned with education and also with what you do. Yeah. Okay. Well, for our Southside Show guests, and of course the Southside Show is all about shedding light on the positive things going on the south side of Atlanta. Could you tell our Southside Show guests about the CTAE program in detail as far as what it's about? Because Clayton County, to me, since I've moved here in 2013, Clayton County to me has been, Clayton County Public School System has been game changing. It seems like you guys are always doing stuff first. And you don't just do it first, but you do it right. So explain to the Southside Show guests the CTAE program.
So CTAE, Career Technical and Agricultural Education, actually is an integration of academics and technical skills and occupations, preparing students for post-secondary options, whether that's college and or a career. The state of Georgia has identified 17 clusters, and under those clusters there are several pathways, career pathways, preparing students for the workforce, today's workforce. We currently offer 15 of the clusters in Clayton County, and we have, I think, roughly 35 or 36 pathways. Our ultimate goal is for students to push in at the middle school from an exploratory lens, and then identify an interest. We know that that's kind of early to identify a career, but we want our students to get interested in something. So what we do is we advocate and work with the counselors so that the students can get interested in an exploratory CTAE program, and then as they transition to high school, the goal is for them to identify a pathway under one of the 15 clusters and kind of matriculate through that. A pathway completer, and that's our ultimate goal, is for all of our students to become pathway completers. Okay. A pathway completer is 3 courses within a pathway. We want students to pass those classes successfully within a sequence, ultimately becoming a completer, and then sitting for some type of industry-related credential that's tied to that pathway.
Okay, so if a student were to get involved in a cluster, let's say in the 9th grade, and they were to complete actually 3, I guess you said classes within that area, and they were to graduate, would they be able to start within that career upon graduation with that certificate that they received?
Yes, ultimately we want our kids to have, and what we have, I guess, coined in Clayton County Public School, a classroom to career experience. Okay. Ultimate classroom to career experience. So right now we have a partnership with the firefighter department, Clayton County. And the goal for that program is for a student to start the 10th grade, start in the law and public securities, and it's a long title, but that pathway, start them in that pathway, ultimately having them to become a pathway completer. They take 2 of the classes over at the fire department. They go through that process, and then they get a credentialing at the end. And that's the ultimate program where a student is starting as a pathway completer, then they're transitioning. Once they graduate and they complete all of the certifications on the department's end, the firefighter department's end, then they become an employee. So we've had around 12 students to matriculate through that process, and at graduation they've been offered a job with our Clayton County Fire Department.
That is cool. I've had one of our past Southside Show guests, Chief Jones, from the city of South Fulton. He was actually talking to us about that particular program. That, you know, the great thing about that program is that at 18 years old, they can actually start working at the fire department and immediately, versus the police department, they'll have to wait, you know, a couple of years until I think they're 21 maybe. But that is excellent. Now, these particular clusters, what cost is it for students that participate in it?
It's absolutely free. So every district in the state of Georgia have clusters depending on, you know, what their region looks like, what are considered high demand fields in their area. They offer those clusters, and based on stakeholders' interests, so that's students, parents, and the community. But it's free as part of the curriculum. It's part of Georgia Georgia Standards of Excellence, and those are the standards that we teach within those pathways. So it's free to the students.
Wow.
It's part of the curriculum.
That's excellent. And then also, within these particular clusters, you know, within the Atlanta metro area, especially on the south side, the major economic engine here is Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. You know, you have a lot of hotels around it. The hospitality sector is big. Construction is really big. of course, working in the airlines, you know, fixing on planes and things of that nature is really big. Are any of those particular clusters within any, I guess, part of the focus of Clayton County's CTAE program?
Yes, as I stated, we have 15 clusters, and some of those are audio, video, technology, and film. We have hospitality, we have education and teaching, we have aviation. Those are two programs that we just started at. One is at North Clayton and one is at Morrow High School. We have, the only two we don't have are energy and manufacturing. So we have logistics and transportation. We have architecture and construction. We have just about all of the clusters.
Man, that's excellent. You know, when I was in school, we're not going to go back that far. It's been a while. It's been a while. So 15 different career clusters, 35 pathways offered at the Clayton County school system. And it says here a 96% of CTAE pathway completers graduate from high school. That is excellent. I've heard some pretty, you know, grim statistics probably almost a decade and a half ago about just schools within Fulton County and Clayton County as far as the graduation rates. But 96%, you know, that's pretty much everyone that touches the program is going to graduate.
Right.
So that is fantastic.
And that's the state rate. That's the state.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right. So it might be higher in Clayton County, huh?
Yeah. It mirrors that.
Right, right. And 3 classes focus. Okay. All right. The CTAE program, what are some of the businesses that participate that offer positions to students that participate in the CTAE program that you're aware of? Are most of them in the Clayton County area, or are they on the south side, or it varies?
It just varies, and it depends on where the gaps are. You know, you have some companies that want to create pipelines, like the firefighter department. They actually approached us with the idea of creating that pipeline. Right now we received scholarships last year from Delta, from the Tech Op area. I think we received, I think it was 25 scholarships, and I may be misquoting, but I think we had 16 students to accept those scholarships, and they're now working with Delta.
Wow, those are some very high-paying jobs.
Yes.
I've looked into the Delta Tech Ops program, and I saw where students were making $60,000, $70,000 out of high school, and you know, I was making a fraction of that when I graduated with a degree, and they are coming out of high school doing that. So that's excellent. And tell me, if there was a company that had a need, a major need, a significant need, and they wanted to have an additional maybe cluster to be considered for the CTAE program, how would they go about trying to work with the Clayton County school system?
Are you saying if the cluster or
if it doesn't exist?
If it doesn't exist. So they would just work collaboratively with us. Usually there is a process. We reach out to, we have program managers at the state level that support the different regions throughout the state. So if there is an opportunity, one of those areas at the state is innovation.
Okay.
So if there is an opportunity where there's a new curriculum, if there is not a current pathway that exists, we work with those individuals at the state to develop that curriculum. Oftentimes we have to bring in the technical school. Right now we don't have a CDL pathway. So just last week I met with Atlanta Technical College because they have a CDL certification. So we work collaboratively with them, and then we're bringing our program manager from the state. They would bring in the powers that be from the technical side. We'll sit down to the table, we'll look at the current curriculum, and we'll do a crosswalk of the curriculum to determine what needs to be in place in order for those students to get a pathway, or in order for us to create a pathway so that the students can matriculate through it.
Okay. Could you tell me of a success story of a student that may have come through the CTAE program in Clayton County?
Absolutely. So we have a young man named Shane Knight. Started off around $42,000, and he's on a progressive salary, now making around $60,000. He transitioned after he graduated from high school. He went directly into the workforce. Clayton County Fire Department hired the young man, and now he has transitioned where he is now getting a degree, and he's currently a paramedic.
Wow. 21 years old, making $60,000.
Yes.
From a certificate, a program that was initiated in high school.
Exactly.
That's amazing. And the thing is that with him being a paramedic, and I guess in the medical field now, we know that there is a lack of medical professionals, nurses.
High demand for
high
them,
demand.
right.
And the thing is that a paramedic, I think that they can actually do more than what some nurses can actually do in the hospital. So a lot of hospitals like to hire paramedics on some occasions. I just learned this from Chief Jones, our interview a couple of weeks ago, but that is just amazing, and that is kind of life-changing in a way. I mean, I'm quite sure that that young man will really move up in the ranks really quick. And the great thing about the CTAE program is that you educate people locally to take on jobs locally, and there is a lot higher retention rate for individuals that live in an area that get employed versus those that are recruited from other areas.
And the success piece for us is we now have a student, multiple students. So we have several students that have taken that path. They're now advocates for the program. So any opportunity that we can get for them to come back, speak to our students, and advocate for CTAE and the well-being of the students, we take advantage of those type of situations.
Well, that's good. Maybe one day we can get a couple of those students to come on the show and we can kind of see where they've come from, and maybe a beginner, someone that might be in the middle school, in the exploratory program, someone that just started, I guess is in the middle, and then a graduate. I love to hear success stories like that. It just kind of it makes me feel really good all over. 911 communications. 5 students are working towards a certification to be 911 dispatchers.
Right.
I know that's a very stressful position, and you really need a special type of person. There's a lot of, I guess, you guys have made a lot of accomplishments with the CTAE program. What are the needs of the CTAE program right now? If you had everything your way as the director, what would you ask for? What do you need more of?
We need more business individuals or industry individuals to push into the classrooms. We want our students to have firsthand exposure to the careers that are available to them, looking at those high demand careers, looking where there's gaps, helping the students to understand the labor market and the importance of workforce development. If we had our way, every program or every pathway would be an example of the firefighter department, where the businesses are coming to us, we're collaborating on the needs, our needs as well as theirs, making sure that there's an interchange taking place, where they're pushing into our classrooms as guest speakers. They're providing job shadowing, mentorship, employability skill opportunities through work-based learning for all of our students. We would love for those opportunities to be paid, to create pipelines where our students are starting off getting that classroom experience and then transitioning into a career and taking what they've learned in the classroom, and now they're doing those or developing those skills at another level in some post-secondary option, whether it's college and or a career.
Okay, well, great. Well, if someone were interested, if someone has a child in Clayton County that they would like to be in the program, how would they start off or get involved in this program? So
we have guidance counselors or professional counselors at every high school, at every elementary school, and at every middle school. One of the great things that is taking place right now is the state is now pushing CTAE at the elementary school level. So we're exposing those kids. So the first step I would say is always talk to your counselor, get that advisement as it relates to careers, starting as early as elementary, and then not necessarily sticking to that particular career, but exploring and bringing awareness to all of the careers that are available. Once they get into the 6th grade, they'll put them on 8th grade, they will put them on a 6-year plan where they're working with the parent It's an individual graduation plan, and that work takes place through the counselor. They're doing those career inventory programs where they're looking at the different surveys or taking the different surveys as it relates to careers, and then just working directly with those counselors on a yearly basis, letting them know what their career interests are, if they want to go to a technical school or four-year college, and continue to revisit those plans so that we are truly guiding them through the process so that when they graduate, they're prepared.
All right, great. If there was a parent out there and they just wanted more information on this particular program, how might they be able to get that information? Do you have websites or social media or anything that you could refer them to?
Yes, we have a Twitter page, and we also have a county website, a CTAE website that they can go to with all of our contact information.
All right. So Mary, is there anything that you'd like to leave our Southside Show guests with?
Yes, I want to take this opportunity to let business and industry know that we need you all to partner with Clayton County Public Schools. We need you all to push into our classrooms, work with our teachers, work with our district level staff to ensure that our students are ready for both college and career. We want you to work with our work-based learning program. Mr. Greg Gould, work with him to determine what needs are in place, identifying the gaps. So we want ongoing collaboration as we teach our students the skills or develop the skills our students need. So we want you all to push into the classrooms, work with our teachers, provide work-based learning opportunities as they relate to job shadowing opportunities, internships, mentoring programs, and just field trip exposure. So we welcome those industry tours for our students. Ultimately, we want business and industry to push in and expose our students so at the end of the day, they're ready for both college and career.
All right. Well, thank you, Mary, for the great things that you're doing for the Clayton County school system and the students.
Thank you.
All right. And it's a wrap, folks. My time is up. I'm Artie Jones, your host of the Southside Show, bringing you the latest and the greatest that the Southside has to offer. And if you don't remember anything else from this episode, please remember this.
Don't sleep on the Southside.
Thank you. Take care. Thanks for tuning in.